Hey guys, I'm Oksana with Freshman Year 101, and today I'm here to explain to you how student life works at Boyce College. Now, most colleges of any size are going to have some sort of student life department because most people recognize that the student life experience, whether it's on-campus living or just events, is a vital part of living the college life. And so Boyce College has done a really good job of cultivating a good culture for students, and it's done a good job of really putting people in place to do things well. But it can be a little confusing if you've never been to Boyce College before, and there are some things that have to do with student life that you should know before you get on campus, because otherwise you're going to be maybe a little upset or confused. And so this basically is just going to be a guide to show you all the things before you ever get on campus. So I have my notes right here, so I'll be referencing them. So hopefully that won't be too distracting for you guys. But first of all, let's just talk about what student life's mission at Boyce is. Essentially, it's to cultivate authentic biblical community. And if you're at Boyce for any amount of time, you're going to hear that phrase over and over again. Starting at orientation, all the way to graduation, it's drilled into the students that Boyce is an authentic biblical community. Now, what this means is that we are all sinners, and we know that, but what we're trying to do is pursue holiness and pursue the Lord, and we're going to do that together. Student life basically aims to provide a safe, enjoyable experience for all students at Boyce College. Now, there are several positions in student life, and each position is there for a purpose to have a different role. There is some overlap, and some of it might be a little confusing, so hopefully that is going to explain, or hopefully I'll be able to explain that today. The first person is the Director of Student Development. This is the head honcho. He's completely over you guys. He's interacting directly with the dean. He will handle any really big issues that come up in dorm living or whatever. But basically his job is to just make sure that student life has a vision, is fulfilling that vision. So he's basically just over everybody else. He's the head honcho. Then under him, we have the Assistant Director of Student Life and Housing. Now, if you have a problem with housing, or just something random, you're trying to stay on campus over winter break or summer break, you have a major issue with your living situation, there's a variety of reasons that you would interact with this person, but essentially he's in charge, or she, right now it's a he, but it could be a she, is in charge of just making sure student housing is good, and he also just helps the Director of Student Development. Then we have the Administrative Assistant. So if you ever email Boyce Student Life, that's going to be the person you're going to talk to. She'll, or he, right now it's a she, will just answer any questions you have. If you go to certain events, you have to have a wristband, and so you'll pick them up with the assistant. Basically, she'll answer the phone. She can help you with a lot of basic answers or getting you in touch with the correct person. She's super helpful, super valuable, and she really does a lot for the Department of Student Life. Then we have the Coordinator of Events, Activities, and Traditions. So Boyce Student Life puts on about 7 events every semester, and the Coordinator of Events, Activities, and Traditions is the person that's kind of in charge of that. So essentially her role is to make sure that students know the traditions of Boyce College. Spirit Week would fall under her role. She's also in charge of preparing for orientation and stuff like that. So basically any events that Boyce Student Life is involved in, that person is in charge of. And then we have the resident directors. So these are the RDs. They lead a team of resident advisors and assistant resident advisors, which we'll get into in a second. And they are, if you're going to interact with anybody on student life staff, it's probably going to be the RDs. They're going to handle any major conflicts that come up with rooming, any serious, if someone is suicidal or just really struggling with anxiety and having constant anxiety attacks and stuff like that, the RDs are really going to step in there and help with those situations. But they're also really wonderful people and are also totally open to getting to know you just because. They don't just intervene in serious situations. They also just have a heart for the students and love to get to know the students. But now let's talk about the student leaders, because this is going to be the part of student life that you are most familiar with. And then specifically the res life is what you're going to be most familiar with. So every hall, when you get your email for your room assignment, you'll get placed on a hall, and they're all like Greek names. So once you get on that hall, you're probably not going to know how to pronounce it until orientation when someone tells you. There's like Aletheia, that's the one I was on for a couple years, Koinonia, Kaleo, and they all mean different things and have a Bible verse associated with it. And it's a really cool part of Boyce culture is just the different hall cultures. So some halls are known for being super sporty, some are known for being nerds, some are known for like being the basketball player hall and stuff like that. Obviously, those are all kind of stereotypes, and there's people that fall outside of that stereotype for each hall, but that kind of is just a fun part of Boyce culture. And the Spirit Week that the student life staff puts on each fall is just a great way for halls to do like friendly competition between each other, and it's just really sweet. So you'll get put onto a hall when you first get to Boyce College, and then each hall has a resident advisor, which is called an RA. You're probably familiar with this term already. It's pretty common at different colleges. And then an ARA, or assistant resident advisor. And so these two people work directly under an RD. So each RD, there's typically 4 RDs, 2 male, 2 female, and each RD leads 5 to 6 different res life teams. And so you'll have an RA, which is going to be basically like the main leader on the hall. He or she is going to do room checks. She's going to check in on you. They're going to make sure you're doing okay and adjusting while your first semester. And then what's really sweet is the second semester, once you're kind of like used to everything, you can really just like hang out and you don't have a bunch of questions and it's just super chill. They'll put together events for the hall. They will fine you if you do something against the rules, like miss curfew, which we'll talk about more in a second. Basically, they're in charge of making sure the hall stays safe and that it stays enjoyable for all of the hall members. And so obviously, if there's one person on the hall that is being really gross and not taking their trash out, or just like won't shower, or is just being like a really rude roommate, it's the RA's responsibility to kind of step in, have a conversation, see if they can remedy it, just so the hall is a peaceful and sweet place to be. So you have the resident advisor, and then you have the ARA, which is basically the resident advisor's assistant. And so they'll actually put in maintenance requests. So if anything is ever wrong in your room, like a light is out or your AC unit is not blowing cold air or whatever, if there's mold or anything like that, you would contact your ARA and they would put in the maintenance request for you. And so basically, they also will like help with hall events and stuff like that, but their job is a lot more chill than the RA. So those are the two people on the student life structure that you're going to be most familiar with, because you're going to be interacting with them at least multiple times a week, if not every day, just simply because you live on the same hall. But then there's also some other categories of student leaders that are really important to the campus culture. So you have the communications coordinator, and they basically work with like graphics. They work with the communications department to put out the social media and make sure that students are aware of all of the events that are happening. And they work directly with the coordinator of events, activities, and traditions to make sure that communication stays consistent. And then you have the outreach coordinator. She or he works directly under the director of student development, and they basically are in charge of all of the student orgs. So currently there's 9 student orgs, and these are basically like the organizations, the groups that Boyce has kind of said, okay, these are like official groups of the college. So they're student run. We have one for like business students. Anyone can join these. It's not closed to like a specific major, but there's one that focuses on business. There's one that focuses on biblical counseling. There's one that focuses on outreach to kids and like the community and stuff like that. So they're all very different. They all serve a specific purpose, but it's a great way to meet people on campus and then also to serve people off campus. So currently there's 9. They actually just added one last year or the year before, so that was super exciting, and it's just a great opportunity to get to know people. But the outreach coordinator is in charge of making sure each of the orgs are running smoothly, are running okay, and have like a clear direction and vision for the year event-wise. And then you have the Student Leadership Board. So the Student Leadership Board is a little bit different from all other student leaders because they're not as involved in the day-to-day life as the other student leaders are. So the Student Leadership Board is comprised of student leaders that have already served for at least 1 year. So they're returning student leaders. And what they do is basically they communicate to other departments. So for example, if Boyce students are really seeing that there's some really gross things happening in the caf or something that like there's a meal that absolutely nobody likes, the Student Leadership Board, or the SLB as they're called, will go to the caf and cafeteria staff and say, hey, students really don't like this meal. Can we swap it with something else? They can go to the bookstore and say, students aren't really liking this merch. Can we try something else? They also run something called Town Hall. And so this happens in the fall semester and students can basically come. There's no staff, like no professors, no student life staff, nobody like that is allowed in to the town hall. It's purely run by the Student Leadership Board. And so it's kind of like a safe place for students to express their concerns about different departments or just certain things that have come up. And of course, the Student Leadership Board can always be emailed. And so if you ever have like an idea or a request, you can just email them. It's like slb@sbts.edu. So there's that. I forgot one group of student leaders, and this is the group that I was a part of for 2 years, and they're called the Student Activities Council. So like we talked about earlier, there are about 7 events each semester that Boyce Student Life actually runs. So this can consist of Coffee House, Love Song Lip Sync, there's Spring Banquet, there's Fall Party, which is actually off campus, which is super fun. And there's a couple other events thrown in there, but the Student Activities Council is the one that they work directly under the coordinator of events, activities, and traditions, and they basically make the event happen. So they plan the event, they go shopping for the event, and then they actually host the event, make sure students are having a good time. So basically that's their role, and it's super fun. They definitely work more behind the scenes, and so honestly, you probably won't even know who's on the Student Activities Council until they do like an Instagram post halfway through the semester introducing you to them. But they are also important to student life. So that's basically the structure of student life. I know that was a lot of information, but it's really important to see how it is all structured because they really do care and they want it to be organized. That way, when certain things come up, there's always somebody that can handle it and can handle it well and that knows what's going on. So that's kind of how it works. It's basically like a hierarchy. You start with Director of Student Development, and then you have all the student life staff, and then you have this whole team of student leaders that actually work under student life staff. So that's kind of the structure. Now I wanted to talk about a couple things that you probably don't know about Boyce student life until you get on campus, but that can kind of irk some students once they get on here. So most people know that you're not allowed to drink on campus. Actually, if you're enrolled in any classes, you're not allowed to. You sign like a covenant. So that's one thing that students don't really like. But there's a couple other things that students aren't really aware of. So one is curfew. There is a curfew every single night of the week. Sunday night through Thursday night, curfew is at 12 p.m. So you have to be basically signed in and in your room. And your RA is responsible for checking that. And Friday and Saturday nights, curfew is 2 a.m. So you do get 2 extra hours on those weekend nights, but just so you know, there's a curfew and you are expected to follow it. And if you don't follow it, you will get fined. The next thing is room checks. There are room checks weekly. Once again, your RA and ARA are going to be doing those. And this is basically just to make sure that you're keeping your space clean, because if you don't keep your space clean, then that can cause a lot of pest problems, not just for you and your roommates, but also for everyone on the hall and even in the building if it gets bad enough. So I do hold room checks, and if you're not following the rules for room checks, I think like the dishes have to be out of the sink, like cleaned. Your room can't be like a mess. You can't have a bunch of dirty clothes everywhere. If you're not following those, you'll get fined. Then there's some mandatory hall meetings. This is basically just to give you an outline of the rules of Boyce student life. So it'll talk about curfew and room check and a couple other things. And there are typically 2 mandatory hall meetings every year. One at the beginning of the semester and then one at the end of the semester just to help you with checkout procedures, because at the end of the semester you have to check out of your room if you're not staying for winter break. So they want to make sure that you're cleaning appropriately and taking all of like opened food and stuff out of the room before you leave for almost 2 months. So that's kind of the purpose of those. Basically just informational sessions, but you are required to be at them. A couple other things, your ARA probably won't be checking this, but you are required to go to dorm meetings. So that's on Monday nights. And honestly, it's required, but it is so good. It's really hard to go to if you have like an early morning shift. So that can cause a lot of students just to not get a lot of sleep on Monday nights, or to just have really long days on Mondays, which can be really hard. And that's typically where the complaints come from. But honestly, dorm meeting is just a really sweet time to worship together with students and to just be filled up. Mondays can feel really long. Typically, students are having a lot of fun on the weekends. You go to church on Sunday, and you typically have something Sunday night. And then Monday hits you and it's work and school. And so having dorm meetings on Monday nights is just a really sweet time to just be filled up by the word and just be encouraged. But it is also required. So if you don't go to a dorm meeting, besides if you're like sick or you have to go home for a death in the family or something like that, then you will get fined. And then also chapel attendance. You're required, you don't have to go to chapel every single time we have chapel. We have chapel Tuesdays and Thursdays during the semester. You only have to get 12 chapel credits though. So you have to go to chapel 12 times. And there's also additional times during the semester where they'll offer different opportunities. So there might be something about Islam or something like that. And it's like basically like a mini conference. So you can go to that and get like half a chapel credit or a full chapel credit. They have a couple different opportunities throughout the semester. But if you don't get your 12 chapel credits in during the semester, the fine is huge. So you really want to make sure that you're getting that. And they do grant exceptions occasionally, like if you have to work on Tuesdays and Thursdays because you have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But honestly, do not bank on it. Do not count on it. They really do not give that out very often. So all of the dorm meeting and the chapel attendance are required for on-campus students. If you happen to be commuting, then you're not required to do any of that. And obviously you wouldn't be required to have curfew or room checks or go to hall meetings because you aren't technically on a hall. So yeah, basically that's an outline. Those are all the things that students typically complain about. The only other thing that the student life staff would kind of be monitoring is people's dress. Typically that's not a problem. Our dress code is very lax. And technically there isn't even one specific thing that you're not allowed to do, except technically in the rule book, you're not allowed to have any piercings if you're a guy and only in the ears if you're a girl. But that's not actually held at all. No one enforces that rule. So like I have a nose piercing. A lot of girls on campus have a nose piercing. I think I've even seen some guys with ear piercings. So they don't hold that rule. But other than that, there's nothing specific. However, if they think you're dressed inappropriately, they will talk to you about that. And once again, that is just to make the environment safe and enjoyable for other people. But typically that's not even a problem. Most people don't get dress coded because the dress code is so relaxed. And most students that are coming to Boyce have some personal dress code that actually is typically more modest than what Boyce would like for students to wear. So that's basically everything. There are other things that students complain about, but typically this just covered all of it. Student life staff is really great, and they want to know the students, and they want the students to just really enjoy campus and to really get a lot out of it. And so everything they're doing is really just to make sure the campus stays safe and that this campus is an enjoyable environment for everybody to live in. Because obviously there's a lot of people living and going to school in a very small community. And so Boyce Student Life staff is really there to just make sure that complaints aren't too extreme and that everyone is just living together in harmony. But that means that they do enforce some standards that maybe we personally wouldn't hold to. But that's kind of the trade-off. So if you come to Boyce, basically you're agreeing to all of these things I just talked about. And If you really don't like it, then Boyce probably isn't the place for you. Boyce is a conservative, small Christian school, and so Baptist school to be specific. And so just know what you're getting into when you sign up to come to Boyce. I think it's great. I never really had a problem with the rules, even my freshman year, but some students really do. And so just think through those things, really consider them, check your heart, see if you're willing to follow them. And if so, then I totally recommend Boyce. It's a great place to be. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope it was helpful and that you aren't too confused. If you have any follow-up questions, you can comment them down below, and I would be glad to answer them for you. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.